Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back home to USA Global TV and Radio. And today's show, Authentic Achievements, is going to be focused on conquering imposter syndrome. And I am delighted to be joined by my good friend and co-founder of International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day, Lisa Ventura Mbe. So let me tell you a little bit more about Lisa before we bring her out. So Lisa is an award-winning cybersecurity specialist, a role model for women and a neurodivergent leader. She's broken down barriers throughout her career to pursue her passion for cybersecurity and DEIB. She's got over 25 years experience as an authority in her field and is one of cybersecurity's most sought after specialists. She's currently exploring the link between imposter syndrome and narcissistic abuse, as well as looking at whether those who are neurodivergent are more likely to be impacted by imposter syndrome. She was awarded an MBE in the King's Birthday Honours List in 2023 for services to cybersecurity and diversity and inclusion. And alongside myself and our other co-founder, Nathaniel Schooler, she co-founded International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day, which is in its 5th year this year. So without further ado, welcome, Lisa.
It's absolutely fantastic to be here today, Kim, with you. Thank you so much.
I'm so looking forward, as I always do, to our conversations. And I think particularly, you know, in light of the forthcoming Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day, which will be April the 13th, and it really was, we set it up, didn't we, to create a space where people could start the conversation, because that's one of the first steps, isn't it, to be able to conquer that imposter, is actually to admit it. Because when we're stuck in our head, when we're in that place, the last thing we want to do is tell anybody, because we're definitely going to find out that we're a fraud.
Yeah, so true. Especially having all that sort of, doubt in your mind and, oh, I'm going to be found out at any second. And you really do think that you're the only one that thinks like that everybody else has complete mastery of their abilities, of their skills, of their jobs, of everything that they do, and that you're the only one. So by having the awareness day, I mean, I can't, in the 5 years that we've been running it, I can't believe the amount of people that have actually come forward, said they suffer from it as well, and that they identify so much with what we're doing, and the fact we're shining a light on imposter syndrome, so that people know that they're not alone. I think that's been a really important aspect of it.
It's so true, because when you are in your head telling yourself those things, you do think it's only you. You're convinced, and I think it's got worse now that we live in kind of a compare and despair society, don't we? So we see everybody else's seemingly perfect lives, and then we compare them with the messy reality of our own and find ourselves sadly lacking because we don't look like that. We don't have overnight success. We don't have all of these things, which aren't actually true. They all come with work and with effort. And even those people that we think can never doubt themselves do. I mean, I know I share this one all the time, but even Einstein, had imposter syndrome. So he has that quote that says, the high esteem within which my works are held leave me feeling like an unlikely swindler. Just like be a global genius, doubted themselves. And so the kind of almost first mistruth about imposter syndrome is you're not the only one. you're not alone. And that really why we were trying to create this free resource, weren't we, to say, actually, come and join us, come and have the conversation, come and share your lived experience and share the things that work for you, because what works for one person may not work for somebody else. But the more that we share, the more likely that people are going to find the thing that works for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Einstein, and I'm always looking, around at celebrities or famous people. And the one for me that even now I just can't get my head around is the fact that Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the rock band Queen, and I'm sure many of us listening obviously know of Queen, know of Freddie. And I'm a huge fan of both, and Freddie is the love of my life. But don't tell my husband I said that. No, no, he knows. But whenever I talk about imposter syndrome and try to shine a light on the fact that it can affect absolutely anybody, I always talk about Freddie because in the reading and the research and everything I've done on Freddie, as a person, apparently he would get so nervous before every live performance that he did that it would actually be to the point that he would be physically sick, and he would be standing just about to go out on stage thinking, I'm a huge fraud, I shouldn't be going out there doing this. And that was even before things like the iconic Live Aid performance, that 20 minutes that he just captivated everyone. And after every live event, he would come off the stage and he would turn to the rest of the band and he'd say, "Was I all right, darlings? Do you think that they like me?" And I think, Freddie, you were just, the showmanship, the charisma, everything. And yet he was still plagued by feelings of imposter syndrome. So
great example, because I think it really highlights the fact that it doesn't matter how many external accolades you get. It doesn't change the voice in your head until you flip the script, and until you start to change that for yourself and say, is this really what I want to think about myself? Is this really what I want to be saying to myself? And for me, one of the things that, and it's a real obvious one, but wherever I go, I can't outrun myself. And so I realized that actually, think of the person you least like to spend your life with. And it's like I tied them to myself, because that's who I was to myself. I was the most horrendous person. And yet I couldn't ever escape myself, because wherever I go, I go. So you had to kind of like go, well, there's only one way I can change this. I'm going to have to change how I feel about myself. I'm going to have to change what I say to myself about myself. And that's quite a journey, isn't it, to do that piece of work?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, for myself, where I've been exposed to a lot of very narcissistic personality types in every area of my life, and being exposed to them from a very young age led me to being the most incredible people pleaser, because nothing I did was ever good enough. All I ever heard was, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't say this." And my family's favorite, "Don't let the side down." Whatever the side was, I don't know, but don't let the side down. Dress this way, put that in your hair, do this, do that, and so and it was all negative reinforcements coming at me all the time. And so my entire existence became all about, how can I please my family? How can I please my friends? How can I be what I'm supposed to be at work? And that then developed further into those feelings of, I'm not good enough. That opportunity wasn't for me. They didn't mean to give it to me. They meant to give it to somebody else. And, the biggest one for me is always that feeling of, I'm a complete fraud and they're going to find me out at any second. Not the biggest feeling of imposter syndrome I'd ever had in my life was receiving the letter from the Cabinet Office saying that I'd been awarded an MBE. I genuinely thought that once I got over the fact that because I thought it was some kind of scam to start with, once I'd actually confirmed that it wasn't, I had to sit on that news for a month before I could share it. And I even got to the point of, do I even want to share it. People are going to think I'm just such a huge, fraud, and I've been awarded this thing. And there were so many other worthy, people out there. And I even considered not putting MBE after my name and not actually announcing it or talking about it. But then I thought, well, it has happened to me, and it is sort of scary saying something like that. And so I went out there and and posted about it, and I do talk about it. But to this day, whenever I think about receiving that letter, being awarded my MBE by King Charles, my levels of imposter syndrome still go through the roof. I can feel it rising even now talking to you, Kim.
And it shouldn't, because you so deserve it. I mean, you look at, and I think this is the thing, isn't it? We get stuck in our heads, but actually, I know the great work that you do, not just in what you've done for imposter syndrome, but also for cybersecurity, for neurodiversity, for standing up for women and in leadership and in life. And it's in recognition of the impact that you've had on those people. It's the ripples out of what we do. And yet I absolutely know, so we've been friends for so long, that it doesn't matter how many times I tell you that, you're still going to feel that inner imposter, because we can't change that. And I think for me, one of the things that personally for me helped was, I remember this one particular day, sitting there, and I'd been given an award, and I didn't think I deserved it. I tried to hide it. Nothing like an MBE, but I tried to hide it. I ended up giving it to my team because I was like, oh, the team won it really, even though it was leader of the year. And I was in real denial from it, and I was like, oh, they were probably making a point about somebody else, or or they didn't really mean it. It was an accident. They probably muddled my name up. There wasn't another Kim, but I decided they'd muddled me with a guy called Jim. I was like, surely they probably would have spotted that. But in my head, this all made perfect, rational sense. And then I remember sitting there one day and going, hold on. So this person you aspire to be like, so that the guy who gave it to me, Paul Stable, one of the best leaders that I've ever worked with, and I aspired to lead like him. He had such impact and such empathy, and we would talk to everybody, and he would know things about them. And I was like, oh, that's who I'd love to be like. And I was like, right, so this guy you aspire to be like, that you absolutely would like to emulate, you think that your opinion is better than his opinion. And I was like, well, no, I don't. That makes no sense at all. I don't think my opinion is very good at all. I spend most of my time letting myself know just what an embarrassment I am. So I was like, okay, but you're choosing to believe that your belief that you are useless is more valid and more credible than his belief that you're good. And that really didn't make sense to me. I was like, well, that doesn't work. Because I don't think my opinion is greater. I think his opinion is greater. And therefore it's like, well, maybe therefore I should trust his opinion and not mine, and do my best to not let him down, to show up and do the best that I can do in any given situation. And I guess to me, that's one of my personal tricks that works for me, is I borrow other people's belief. I go, okay, if you believe in me, I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to do everything I can to not let you down on that, because I can no longer trust my belief. Because it proved to be pretty inadequate. Does that resonate?
It does. And you said earlier as well, and it's so right, is that the way we talk to ourselves, the way we have thoughts in our heads of, I'm not good enough, that opportunity wasn't for me, I'm a fraud and I'm going to be found out at any second. All of those thoughts, those things that we say to ourselves, we would never in a million years say any of those things to anyone else, unless you're a narcissist, in which case I've had it all and then some. But unless you do have those narcissistic personality traits, or even full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, I would never dream of saying that or any of those things to anybody else in a million years. So why do we do it to ourselves? And yet we do. It's I don't get it.
No, and it's true, isn't it? You just wouldn't. You wouldn't say. I wouldn't even think them about somebody else, let alone say them. It just wouldn't cross my mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's so cruel. I think that's word I can describe. I was cruel to myself.
Yeah.
And then somebody gave me another tip, which again works for me. They told me to get a picture of myself as a young child, and put the picture somewhere on my desk. It's actually over here, embarrassingly. That's me and my brother when we were little. Forgive the 1970s outfits. But they said you do that so that the next time you're being mean to yourself, look at the picture and realize that's who you're talking to. You're talking to that child. And it really hit home, because it's really hard to be mean to a child, even if it's you. It's like, oh no, because they're little and they're so full of wonder, and they don't have bad intent. You know, they're just trying to navigate the complexity of life with as a learning experience, and that's helped me when I catch myself in those moments where I'm spiraling into mean girl. I get the picture and go, you really want to say this to this child? And it helps that I look like my little girl at the same age. So kind of like that, going, oh my goodness, yeah, actually, could I ever imagine saying this to Scarlett? No. I never would. But I think sometimes I read somewhere the other day, I'd love your thoughts on this. I read somewhere that inadvertently we create this drive for perfection by the way that we celebrate success. So when we celebrate success about being what was achieved, then actually we create a belief in the person that success is the only thing that counts. They did a study on it, and they had this group of people, and one lot got recognized for every achievement that they made, and the other group got recognized for trying every time. So you tried really hard, you didn't give up, and I love that. That's what I'm proudest of. And what they found was the group that had been given the success metric actually over time performed worse, whereas the ones that had constantly been reinforced that it was the fact that they kept trying, the fact that eventually they outperformed significantly the group that started off better. And that really triggered something to go, I need to be much more careful when I'm praising Scarlett, that it's about that you kept trying, that you didn't give up, that you have that thirst for continually improving yourself. And that's awesome.
Absolutely. And I totally can get that, because I think that group that were praised more for trying, they would then be going on to do better and better and better and better, to be better than the person that they are today, tomorrow, and so on. So I can see that makes sense in terms of they actually turned out to be the most successful group. And success is different for everybody, isn't it? And what I know a lot of people, and people within my own family, that success to them is very materialistic. They are very grandiose in their approach, very sort of grandiose narcissism. So it's puffing their chest out and look at me, aren't I amazing, because I've got the house and I've got the car and I've got a massive bank balance, and that makes me successful and makes me better than everybody else. And it's absolutely no. You will go the same way in that cemetery as I have. And yes, I've got the roof over my head and my bills are paid and I'm comfortable and I have my car and stuff. But it's not a brand new car just driven out of the showroom and so on, which is what a lot of these wanted. And then the flash holidays and flash designer clothes and this, that, I don't get with any of that. I picked up, I've got this on today because I've done a podcast this morning for cybersecurity. So I've got my Forgot Your Password t-shirt on, but I picked up items from even car boot sales or charity shops or things like that. My car is not a new car, but does it work? Yes, it gets me from A to B. So that's all I need. I don't subscribe to this whole thing of, materialism to be successful or to be perceived as being successful, and then have it go to their head so they think they're better than everybody else because they will go the same way as me in that cemetery. That's for sure.
It's true. I mean, and I think for me, often the things we get for free are the things that we undervalue. until we get to that point where we're about to hit the cemetery, and then we realize that actually we haven't valued them enough. That the thing that we can't buy more of, no matter how much money we've got in the world, we cannot buy more time.
And we cannot buy good health. I'll add that into that as well. Health is wealth. It's everything.
We can't buy health. We can't buy love. We can't, not true love.
Yeah.
We can't buy, and there, because we get those for free. And because they're free, we undervalue them until they run out or they're taken away. Something happens to them. And so, for me, one of the things that I value most, and I personally, for me, see as a real measure of success, is I now get to take Scarlett to school every day, and I get to pick her up from school every day. Not every day, but probably 99 times out of 100. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's time that I'm never going to get back.
Exactly.
Actually, when she's older, Mummy's going to be dull and boring. She's not spend time with me. So you've got to, for me, I've got to cling on to every moment while actually she still thinks I'm cool. We'll deal with the disillusionment later. It's those elements that say, before when I had the big corporate career, I was much more driven by a perception of success, but I've never got more successful than now. I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
Actually, what I do have is memories, is people that are important in my life that I get to spend time with, that I get to share their lived experience, and I've got a coaster that my best friend bought me that always makes me smile. It's out here because I didn't realize we were making memories. I just knew we were having fun.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, that really reminded me of where I've now got to, which is actually it's not the destination, it's the journey. So the destination was we made memories, but the journey was we just had fun. And if we can bring that into our lives, and particularly into the conversations that that we're having around International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day, and there's bits that say the only thing that imposter syndrome really robs us of is our joy. It takes away our ability to enjoy what's going on in the moment. And actually, if we start having those conversations, if we start to find our Thrive High, find our people that we can ask their opinion of, and get a different perspective, because sometimes when you ask somebody else, their perspective of you is so different, isn't it, to your perspective of you?
Yeah, absolutely. And coming in on what you said there about that time you have with your daughter going, taking her to school and stuff, it's absolutely not the same thing. But I don't have any living children, but I do have my dog Poppy, who's getting up to, she'll be 12 years old in November. And she's been at death's door a few times in the last few years, since about 2020. And I make sure I get out with her, every day for a couple of walks a day, spend time with her, give her lots of, fuss, play with her when she feels able to play, things like that. And the reality is she is slowing down, and I know she's only got a finite amount of time on this earth, and with all her health ailments, it's going to be sooner rather than later. But like you say, I have those memories with her that time, and she has saved me, and what she gives me, and unconditional love is just wow. Dogs and pets are just the most amazing. I just don't have the words. They really are, and she has saved me so many times. And I know her time on earth is going to be finite and sooner rather than later, but I have those memories, and and she is, and I consider her to be a great success of mine and my husband's, because she really struggled to settle in when we first homed her. All the dogs I've had in my life have all been rescue dogs. She was a rescue dog, and we struggled with her when we first had her in terms of settling in and behavior, and she was really challenging. I can't say that she wasn't, but she's also a huge success because she's so settled now and so happy, and really well behaved, and does what she's told. And it's been a two-way thing. She's come to trust us as much as, and she knows now this is it. This is her forever home. She's not going anywhere. And that to me is a huge success. And somebody else would just think, oh, it's only a dog. Well,
that's the that's the thing, isn't it? Is actually,
Yeah.
for me, one of the big lessons was learning that I got to define what success meant for me.
Yeah.
Didn't mean I defined it for anybody else. Didn't mean I needed anybody else to agree that my definition of success was actually successful, because it was mine. And I spent too many years trying to define it in a way I thought was acceptable to others, rather than in a way that was acceptable to me. You know, it's at certain points in my life when things have been going horribly wrong, success looked like I adulted appropriately for 12 hours. That might not be very successful for somebody else, but in the depths of despair, it was like, if I can just get through 12 hours without anybody realizing I'm a basket case, then actually I'm doing good. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I've learned as I continue on this journey, is that actually it evolves. And what success looks like today might not be what success looks like tomorrow. That's okay. Because me I am today is not the same as the me I was yesterday, because I've grown and learned from what happened yesterday. So you're kind of like almost a constant work in progress.
Absolutely. And for me, oh goodness, that work in progress never goes away. I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm always looking at new skills, courses, things that I can do to ensure that my skills are up to date, that I'm still relevant in a landscape that's changing by the second. Never mind, especially in cybersecurity, there's always something new to learn. And actually, I was having a conversation this morning around the use of the word expert when it comes to cybersecurity. I really hate it when I'm pegged as a cybersecurity expert. I might be very specialist in the particular area of cyber that I'm versed in, which is cyber psychology, social engineering, and the human aspects of cybersecurity. But I would not say that I'm an expert. And sometimes I get pegged as Lisa Ventura Mbe, cybersecurity expert, and I just think, and that's not impossible. And then somebody said, that's just your imposter syndrome talking. I said, no. The analogy I use is, say you want to go into healthcare, and you want to be a doctor. Well, you could be a general practitioner, you could be a cardiologist, you could be a pediatrician. There's all manner of different specialisms within healthcare and medicine, and cybersecurity is exactly the same. You could be highly technical and be a pen tester, for example, or do red teaming, blue teaming, but my specialism is the human aspects and social engineering of cybersecurity. And I would be a fraud if I professed to be anything else within the cybersecurity industry.
I love that. It's finding that definition, isn't it? That's saying, actually, on this thing, if you were to badge it as the human element of cybersecurity expert, then you'd be okay with that, because we've defined it. Whereas when it's too broad, and you're like, well, hold on, you find someone that asks me any questions on anything other than the of cybersecurity, that fuels those feelings, doesn't it? It fuels that concern that we're going to get asked something that we don't know the answer to. And I think, particularly if anybody that's ever been in any form of leadership, we've taught our leaders that they need to know all the answers, and they don't, and they can't.
They don't. Nobody can.
No. So what you've kind of got to be able to do is, as a good leader, you've got to know who to ask to get the answers to all the questions, and you've got to know the questions to ask. But I think that I think, and would love your thoughts on it, is also driving a layer of that ongoing imposter syndrome, because we're setting people up to fail because they can't know that, and therefore they're going to find themselves lacking, or they're going to make up the answer and then convince everybody it's true.
Or have a bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect going on there. Yes.
And go, I'm just going to have utter belief in what I'm saying, whether that's correct or not.
Absolutely. And oh gosh, you're so right with that. But just going back to an incident that happened to me. So I actually have my first poetry book coming out next week, a week today, in fact. And it's a complete departure away from cybersecurity. But I wanted to do it. I've always written poetry and short stories in, some form in my spare time. And then the local paper wanted to do a piece on the launch event that I've got in Worcester for it next week. And they actually wrote me as cybersecurity expert in the headline. And I just cringed. Oh no, not another one. And I did put a post out about it on LinkedIn, and somebody did post back on the thread and said they wouldn't worry about it in that instance because a lot of people that would be seeing that in the local paper probably wouldn't ever come to me for cybersecurity, stuff anyway. So just to let it go. But I still felt like such a big imposter at being, headline of cybersecurity expert launches poetry book in the local paper. And I think that's part of my neurodivergency, because if something is out there that isn't quite strictly true, my brain can't compute it. So.
And it'd be interesting to explore that because with that neurodivergence, there is. I've got lots of friends, and Scarlett's got some friends as well that are, and there's a real need for it to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
there's no grey.
Yeah.
So I know with one of her little friends, I know he needs to know the answer. So sometimes I like, if he hasn't got the answer from her, he'll message me and I'll respond because I just know he needs to know we're out at swimming. Because if not, he doesn't understand why we're not answering. And we'll just keep ringing until we.
Yeah.
But I know that's just because he needs it to be right. He needs to know. What's going on. How do you feel that your neurodivergence has been further impacted by imposter syndrome?
Very much so, and also with the advent of the menopause that I'll come on to in a moment. But just going back to what you to what you were saying, that you would respond to your daughter's friend because he needed to know the answer. I can absolutely relate to that because so do I, and that's how I am even now. But it was definitely very prevalent when I was a child. And if I asked a question, the response, or if I asked why in response to a question, getting the answer from my parents of because I said so wasn't exactly helpful. So, for example, it was, right, we're going to, I don't know, your nan's house. You need to wear that pretty dress. Well, I don't want to wear that dress. Why have I got to wear that dress? Because I said so. And that's all I got. I didn't get anything tangible, from it and stuff. And that would always really, really bug me, because it's like, but why can't I wear what I feel comfortable? And also, being neurodivergent, certain fabrics I can't stand the feel of. And they would always put me in these little frilly dress things, and the feel of the fabric as well, I really hate it. I don't like the feel of velvet or velour or anything like that as well, or silk. It's too just talking about it, I can almost feel it on my skin. It's making me cringe a bit.
but I mean, there are things that it's important for us to understand, isn't it? So that we, if we understand them, then we're back in control of making choices, making our decisions off the back of them. And we touched briefly, and I'm conscious we're running fastly out of time. But I'd love to just touch on that kind of the further impact that I know both of us went through as we went into menopause, where actually all of a sudden you start to again find a new layer of doubt, don't you? All the great I'd done in quietening my inner imposter, it was like it found a chink in the armor. It's something new. There's something new. She's going old. She's going grey. She's hitting the menopause, and therefore we can come back in and we can be, we can reenact Mean Girl all over again. And you find the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And I developed a level of imposter syndrome, again, that I never knew existed. That came about when I got into perimenopause and the menopause. I really did worry about myself. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I thought I was going through the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. It was that bad. The brain fog was off the charts. I would put things down and then forget where I put them, or put things down and just completely forget about them, or turn on the washing machine and completely forget about it. Just any number of things. How I held it together in a work situation. I honestly don't know. My husband and I almost came to divorce. It was just insane, the sheer level of feelings of imposter syndrome. And I didn't really struggle with the more traditional symptoms that they talk about of hot flashes and tests, but the brain fog and everything to do with, my mind was just completely off the charts with the perimenopause and menopause. And my levels of imposter syndrome went through the roof. My ADHD side of things went through the roof as well. And I really do think that going through menopause and perimenopause is different for those of us who are neurodivergent. And I think those of us who are neurodivergent will probably have more higher levels of imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah, I think I certainly resonate with the brain fog. I mean, I when I was growing up, it was very much, if you lose something, retrace your steps. I felt like I spent my life in reverse. Just retracing my steps to try and work out where I'd left anything, which just it wasn't very helpful. It didn't allow us to move forward, because you kind of can't live that way, can you? Lisa, I'm very conscious we've got only 3 minutes left before the end of the show. So can you share with the audience a little bit more about how they can get involved in International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day and what they can expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the day, we have a raft of Q&A discussions and fireside chats. You can find information out at iisad.org. The Q&As and the fireside chats will be going out throughout the day. But we'll also, myself, Kim, and Nathaniel Schooler, our other co-founder, will be online during the day. We'll be posting and sharing on our social media channels. And if you tune into any of the talks and you hear anything that resonates, get in touch with us, join in the conversation on our LinkedIn page, our Facebook group, and our social media channels. It's so important that we open up the conversation, because I think a lot of people out there are still suffering from imposter syndrome and thinking that it's the only that they are the only ones that are feeling it. And I guarantee you're not. You're absolutely not alone. And that's why we founded the day, to open up that conversation around imposter syndrome.
Oh, I love that, and it's so true. And actually, you don't even have to wait for the day, do you? Because if you go to iisad.org, then you can actually find all the talks from the last 5 years and other resources to help. But I would encourage you to, if you're feeling that way, if you are currently your own worst enemy instead of your own best friend, then start having the conversation, reach out, read some of these things. We've interviewed some amazing people over the years who all have had an experience of their own. And hopefully that helps people to find someone that they resonate with. So find something that go, oh my God, that's just like me. And therefore maybe I'm not alone. Maybe there is an option for me where I can, where I too can find a way through this, where I can actually get to a stage. I mean, for me, for very many years, I don't like myself at all. Whereas now, actually, I quite like myself. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm not saying I'm brilliant, but I'm kind and I try hard. And actually, that's okay. That's pretty good. So it has been an absolute joy, as always, to chat to you, and always so full of insight and share. And I thank you also for being willing to be vulnerable and share lived experiences, because it's only by being vulnerable and sharing that we can help other people to have the psychological safe space to also be vulnerable and share how they're feeling. So my greatest thanks, lovely friend, for every conversation that we have, for being with me on this journey and to help other people. And I look forward to next time.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a real pleasure today.
Bless you. Thank you so much. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today to be insightful and give you some ideas of how you can overcome your inner imposter. And if you want to find out more, then go ahead to iisad.org. And my thanks again for you joining us here on USA Global TV and Radio. And until next time, take care.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the Secrets of Visual Impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.